SEO. What is SEO? This is just a short introduction to some of the SEO topics you need to know about. So after watching this video, the idea is you can look at your own website and you can see whether you've got the basics of SEO in place. So my name is David Murray from the Cheltenham Group, and I specialize in teaching SEO. So what is SEO? Well, there's basically two types of SEO. There's on-site SEO and there's off-site SEO. So on-site SEO, as you can see here, is basically techniques that you apply to your actual website. So it's the content of your website, the keywords within your website, the way you've structured your website, your headings, your titles, things like that. Whereas off-site SEO is basically everything else. It's your social media, it's links to your website. So these days, good SEO is a kind of mixture of on-site and off-site SEO. Now, one of the key things with SEO is do not over-optimize. So when I run the sort of full version of this training course, which is a 2-day training course, one of the most important slides I show people is this. It's do not over-optimize. Google doesn't mind you optimizing your website. It doesn't mind you applying SEO to your website, providing you don't overdo it. That's the key thing. The starting point for SEO is to go and look at the advice from Google. So if you go into Google and just search using the phrase Google Webmaster Guidelines, you'll see a few bits and bobs at the top here. But if you come down here, you'll see this page here, which is Webmaster Guidelines. If I go and click on this, this is not my opinion or anybody else's opinion. This is the advice from Google. And I strongly advise you to go and check this out if you're interested in SEO. And you'll see there's 3 sections. The first one says help Google find your pages. And if you click here, you get more information about that. Then the second section says help Google understand your pages. And again, you can get more information about that. And the third section says help visitors use your pages, and again you can get more help on that. So there's lots of basic information here. They don't tell you exactly how to do the SEO, but the important point I'm trying to make here is that this is Google's own advice about what you should do in terms of SEO, how much you should do, and what you shouldn't do. So for instance, if you go down here, it's got some basic principles. And you'll notice the very first basic principle sort of backs up that last slide I was just showing you. And it says, make pages primarily for users, not for search engines. Or in English, don't over-optimize. If you go down here, there's some specific guidelines about things that Google really doesn't like. So for instance, as you're probably aware, you should never buy in links to your website. All sorts of stuff there that Google really doesn't like. And the kicker is the bit down the bottom. If your site violates one or more of these guidelines, then Google may take a manual action against it. When they say may, that's a bit like a bank saying there may be a charge. There's always a charge. Same with Google. If you upset Google, you'll suffer. At best, you might sort of drop in the rankings. At worst, they'll throw you out of Google completely. And that has happened even to big companies like, say, BMW and Interflora. At one point they were banned completely from the search engines for basically breaking these guidelines. So I say these guidelines are far from complete, but it does sort of draw your attention to the really important things that either Google likes or, more importantly, things that Google doesn't like. So as I say, do not over-optimize. So examples of successful SEO. Well, I've been using SEO since 1996. I've actually been teaching SEO courses since 1996, which is interesting because Google was founded in 1998. So believe it or not, I've been teaching SEO 2 years before Google was even founded, because back in the day, there were other search engines before Google came along, things like Alta Vista, Ask Jeeves, Lycos, a whole load of almost extinct search engines now. These days, the most important search engine, the only one really you have to worry about, is Google. So let's see how well I do. My original company was, or still is, it sells computer training materials. Basically, I sell computer training materials to training companies or to individuals or consultants or to corporates, basically anybody who wants to train people on how to use things like Microsoft Office and what have you. So let's see how well I do. Here within Google, I've just simply typed in computer training materials. I didn't type in Perth or Journal App or Dart or anything like that, which obviously would have made it a lot easier. I just simply typed in computer training materials. And that's really what SEO is all about. It's really about deciding what your users are going to type into Google in order to find your product or your service or your location. So in this case, computer training materials, that's exactly what I do. The first one is an advert. You can see it's marked with an ad there. The second one is an advert. Then after that, we've got this one here, and you'll notice it's cheltenhamcourseware.com.au, which is me. The second one is cheltenhamcourseware.com, which is also me. So this first one is my computer training site or computer training materials site for Australia. The second one is a site I set up for North America. And the third site here, CCT Global, it's short or was short for Cheltenham Computer Training Global. I thought that sounded like a good name at the time. That was actually my very first website I set up, and that comes up third. If I go with this first one and right-click and then click on Open a New Window and do the same on the second one here and do the same on this third result here, and if I go and look at those tabs, you can see, sure enough, there is my logo on the first one, my logo on the second one, and my logo on the third one. So quite clearly you can see those are my websites. So to put it mildly, I do pretty well for the phrase computer training material. So that's an example of successful SEO in action. Something else I do, a little sort of sideline if you like, which was a kind of an accidental business I started. It was never really meant to be a proper business. It just kind of grew over the years. Is a business that takes old videotapes and converts them into either DVDs or USBs or hard disk. So if you type in a phrase something like videotape conversion to DVD Perth, because it's primarily a Perth-based business, let's type that into Google and see how well I do. So here we are in Google. I've typed in videotape conversion to DVD Perth. There's an advert at the top there. There's an advert here. And here you've got me. So that's videotapes to dvd.com.au. That is also one of my websites. And as you can see, it comes up first for that phrase there. Now, the other obvious one is my SEO training site. So if I type in something like SEO training or SEO training Perth, I generally come up first. Let's have a look. So in response to SEO training Perth, I come up first and I come up second. And I've got this huge, great advert over here, none of which costs me anything. So that is displayed because of good SEO. So is that one. And this thing over here, if you've not heard of it, it's courtesy of something called Google My Business, which is totally free. So basically, all the visibility here, I didn't pay for any of this. So the first two results there, those are mine. And this big advert over here is also mine, and it's all totally free. The other thing to seriously consider, which most small businesses don't, are YouTube videos. Obviously, if you produce videos, upload them to YouTube, when people search within YouTube itself, people can find your videos. It's just like doing SEO for videos as opposed to doing SEO for websites. But the other thing is that increasingly, if you do them the right way, when people search in regular Google, your videos can show up as well. Check this out. Earlier on, I recommended that you go and search for something called the Google Webmaster Guidelines. Now, as soon as you start doing some research into SEO, you'll find lots of people advising you to go and search and do exactly what I've done here, which is search for the Google Webmaster Guidelines. Now, as I said earlier, if you do that, there's the page that comes up. But if I scroll down the page a little bit, let's have a look here. Videos. Now, bear in mind, I'm in Google here, not in YouTube, and I search for Google Webmaster Guidelines. I happen to know that a lot of people will be searching for the phrase Google Webmaster Guidelines. So what I've done is I've produced a video exactly about how to use the Google Webmaster Guidelines, and that shows up within the Google search, not in YouTube, but in the Google search. And as you can see, there's my name, David Murray. So that's an example of how you can think creatively with using your videos and try and think, well, what are people going to search for that relates to your particular business, your service, your products, whatever. And if you're clever, like in this case, what I've done is I know people are going to search for Google Webmaster Guidelines if they're investigating SEO. So what I've done is I've produced a nice little video there. It shows up in the results here. And if I click on that, I won't actually do it. If I click on that, that would take me to YouTube and display this video. And from there, people can link back to my website. So it doesn't really matter how people get to your website. It could be via your social media links, in this case via YouTube. But the point is they want to be directed to your website. So next, I want to look at some basic SEO concepts. So how do search engines work? Well, as you can see, search engines work by looking at each page within your website and then trying to figure out what that page is about. Now, what that means is, and this is a very powerful idea, is that instead of having just a few pages on your website, create lots and lots of really useful pages that are rich in information. So in my case, for instance, I could have a website which talks about SEO training, but also I could have other pages there that talk about maybe WordPress training or Divi training or YouTube training. And each page can be carefully optimized for a different phrase. And what this means is that when people do searches, sometimes your homepage will come up. But as I say, in my case, my homepage is very definitely optimized for SEO training. But some of my subpages will be optimized for other things, as I say, like YouTube training or Divi training or WordPress training, whatever it happens to be. So try and treat every individual page as a fresh opportunity for sort of optimizing for a different search phrase. That's really the key. Now, the other basic concept is think like a search engine. Imagine you were Google. What would you like to see? What would you reward? And what would you penalize? So if you go and check out those Google Webmaster Guidelines I was talking about, make sure that anything there that Google likes, you do that. Anything that Google doesn't like, you don't do. And then you've got a much better chance of, at least sort of getting on the right side of Google. Obviously, there's more to it than that, but try and do everything right. So the key thing is when you look at your web page, it's got to look good for humans, but it's also got to look good for Google as well. So what you want to try and do is get a page that looks both to Google and also to your visitors and optimize it for both. And as I said earlier, a key concept is that search engines rank web pages, not just the site. Now, there's about 200 factors that go into the mix with SEO. Some are positive, some are negative, some have a huge effect, some have a very small effect. But SEO is all about trying to do everything right. The single most important SEO factor, without a doubt, is what's called the HTML title. If you get that right, you're in the game. If you get that wrong, you're not going to show up too well. So that is by far and away the most important factor. And then there's a whole bunch of other factors which are kind of in second place, things like headers and alt tags and anchor text, things like that. You may not have heard of those, but I'll see if I can cover those in a minute. But the important thing is to get every single item here optimized in a way that Google likes. I mean, there's other things that are very important. These days, your website has to load as fast as possible. It has to look good on a mobile, as well as a tablet, as well as a laptop, and increasingly large screen TVs. So it's getting increasingly difficult to produce websites that look good on everything, but that's what you've got to try and do. So as I say, the most important factor is probably, well, there's definitely the HTML title, and then after that you've got a whole bunch of things in second place. Then after that you've got a whole bunch of little things which all add up. Now, all of those little things do add up. It's a bit like having a jar in the kitchen. You have a jar in the kitchen, and you start putting your change in there. After about 6 months or so, it's amazing how much money you can actually accumulate by doing that. I've tried it. It's a good way of saving. SEO is like that. Do all the obvious things, but then do all the the less obvious things, the little things, and by doing all of those and doing all of those right, you get the sort of results that I've got. The other thing is, don't get obsessed with being at the top of the first page. Ideally, you need to be on the first page, but if you think about it, there's only 10 slots there. I mean, there's a lot of SEO companies, you've probably had emails from them, and they'll send you emails saying, oh, go with us and we'll guarantee you to get you to the top of the first page. Well, how does that work? If you've got 11 companies sending out the same sort of guarantee, how can they all get you to the top of the first page, let alone on the first page, if there's only 10 slots? So, this obsession with the top of the first page is something that, you don't need to worry about. You need to be on the first page, ideally. If you can't get on the first page for your chosen keyword phrase, then think of a different one, an easier one. So, for instance, let's say you've got, a company, say, based in Joondalup. Let's say you've got a company that makes wills. What you could do is something like writing a will Perth. You could optimize it for that. If that's too difficult and you're based in Joondalup, then optimize for the next best thing, which might be making a will in Joondalup, because that's obviously going to be a lot easier. So go for the easy things first, and then slowly over time go for the harder ones. In that case, making a will in Perth, or making a will in WA, or whatever it happens to be. But certainly you will find that, just by changing some of the basic factors, that can have an enormous effect on your website. So another basic SEO concept is naming things. Name everything to be SEO friendly. So what does that mean? Well, let's take an obvious example. Let's say you've uploaded a picture. Let's say you've taken a picture with your own camera. The original file name is something like, pic001.jpg. Well, you could just leave it at that, or you could give the file name an SEO-friendly name. So in my case, if I took a picture of myself running a training course in Joondalup, for sake of argument, what I could do is rename the actual name of the file to something like SEO-training-Joondalup or something like that, .jpg, and then upload that. However, don't overdo it. You don't want all your files, all your pictures, all your videos, all your bits and pieces. You don't want them all to have exactly the same name, because that would look like spamming. So again, as I say, you've got to be subtle about this. Another obvious thing is, if you want to be found for a particular search phrase, then obviously make sure that exact phrase is used somewhere within your website. So for instance, in my case, if I want to be found for, SEO training Perth, for sake of argument, then obviously I have to have the exact phrase SEO training Perth in the actual website contents. Obviously, it's not just that. I mean, that would be too easy. But that's like a starting point, to make sure you've got the exact phrases within your website that you want to get found for. Something else that's very important, and again, people kind of don't really take advantage of, is when people are talking about SEO, they're normally talking about just simply web pages. Something that's very, very important is to have a mixture of pictures and documents and videos within your websites, because all those individual items, the pictures, the documents, the videos, can all be optimized within their own right. And you will find that either pictures or PDF documents or Word documents or videos maybe on YouTube, they can all show up within the search engine results within Google. So use as many different formats as possible. Use social media. I'm not really a great fan of things like Facebook and Twitter and what have you. I do websites. I've always done websites. I love websites. So by and large, I do quite nicely without messing about with Facebook and Twitter, but obviously that varies from one business to another. For instance, I've got a hairdresser client, and she does fantastically well by mixing both the Facebook and the website together. In other cases, if you're an industrial company producing heavy machinery, will a Facebook or Twitter account help you? Probably not. So it depends on your business. But in all cases, think YouTube. That's the one that most small businesses don't use, and you should use it. It's the secret with YouTube is it's owned by Google. That's really the key. So Google owns YouTube, And the better you do within YouTube, the better your website will do. And you can kind of link the two together. So really think about using YouTube and videos. Now, the other thing you need are links. So you need to find ways of creating quality links from other websites to your website. Back in the day, you could just simply buy in links. These days, that is specifically mentioned in the Google Webmaster Guidelines. Go and check them out, and it'll tell you in black and white. Google says if you buy in links, you're probably going to get found out and you will get banned. It's as simple as that. So do not buy links. Never even think about buying in links. Another popular concept that used to work was what's called reciprocal links. For instance, if you've got a company in Perth, you could contact maybe a similar company in, say, Sydney, and if you're both just working in sort of local areas, people could swap links, what's called reciprocal links. That used to work in the old days. These days, to a large extent, if you link to somebody else and they link to you, one cancels out the other. So what you need are one-way quality links from somebody else's website to your website. How do you get those? Well, that's the question. You can just simply go to lots and lots of similar but non-competitive websites and just simply ask for a link. I mean, don't ask, don't get. There'll be a very small percentage will actually do that, but it's worth trying. The way that Google recommends you do it is that you create quality content. And if you've got quality content, the theory is that people will spontaneously link from their blogs or their website to your website. And that is actually true. If you go and look at my computer training materials website, on there I've got hundreds of full-length training courses that anyone can download. And the idea is you download them as samples, but I'm pretty sure an awful lot of people just download them for their own use, and they don't even have to sign up for them. So as a result, there's an awful lot of people who basically put links into those websites saying, hey, go there and get a free course. It's not like I'm selling a tractor or something and someone steals it off me. At the end of the day, if someone effectively steals one of my courses, it hasn't cost me anything, and I'm getting more traffic to the website, so everyone's happy, really. I don't really mind. Obviously, if you're a university or something like that, you're not just going to steal the material because of licensing rules and regulations. So by being really open like that, I actually end up with a lot of links, which helps the SEO, and that in turn means I'm very easy to find. As you just saw, you typed in, computer training materials or something like that. I filled the first 3 spots, which is not bad. So as I say, high quality content attracts links. It sounds a bit twee, but it does work, but it also takes time. Google Webmaster Guidelines, I had a quick look at those earlier on. Check them out, make sure you understand them, and basically memorize them. Basically give Google what it wants. Now, evaluating keyword phrases. What you should do before you even think about your SEO is to think, well, what phrases are important to you? Sometimes it's really easy. So for me, with my computer training materials business, and that is the phrase, that's the choice phrase. Same with my SEO training business. I mean, SEO training or SEO training Perth, that's a kind of an obvious one. In some cases, for some businesses, it's not nearly so cut and dried, so you need to try and think about things. And also you need to think about what people actually type in as opposed to what you think they might type in. So to give you an example, a couple of years ago, in fact quite a few years ago now, I did a website for a company in Joondalup that does wills, so they write wills. So I was trying to think, okay, well, what will people type in? And I came up with a list of 3 things, which was, making a will, creating a will, and writing a will. And I can't remember which way round it was, but the one I thought would be the most important turned out to be the least important when I actually did the analysis. So I think it was something like writing a will. No, I think making a will was the most important one. But in that particular case, what I did was I optimized the website. So if you typed in something like making a will Joondalup, writing a will Joondalup, or creating a will in Joondalup, it actually came up for all 3. And I think it's still at the top of the list even now after all these years. So as I say, think about the keyword phrases are important. Think about alternatives. And try and get as much input as possible from other people, your other people in the business, family, friends, customers, anyone you can think of. And also go and check out the competition and see what sort of phrases they seem to think are important. Another obvious thing which people kind of miss is use a phrase rather than a single word. So, for instance, even now I still get people ringing up saying, oh, I want to be first in Google for the word plumbing. And I think, okay, well, how does that work? If you're a small company, and most of the companies, in fact, all the companies I deal with are just small companies. If you're a small company based in Perth, why do you want to come up first in Sydney for the word plumbing? It doesn't make much sense. You'd want to be first maybe for plumbing Perth or plumbing in a suburb. That makes sense. So be realistic about the phrases you want to actually promote with your SEO. And the other thing is use a localized phrase, localized to maybe the city or the suburb or wherever it happens to be. And also, think about the words you're going to use. So, for instance, you could have Australia, Australian, as far as humans are concerned, it's the same thing. But to Google, it's slightly different. So in this example here, you could have plumbing, plumbers, those are different but similar words. So try and think of as many different but similar phrases as possible and try and sort of weave these into your website. Now, before you do your SEO, you can start using Google to do research, check out your competitors. So if for a particular phrase you're maybe at the bottom of page 3, what you want to do is to investigate every single website that's listed above you. Go and check them out, see what information they got displayed on the page, see if they concentrate on certain suburbs, whatever it happens to be, but spend a lot of time investigating the competitors. Something else you can do is to use what's called the Google Auto Suggest. So if I just bring up Google, if I type in the word something like cheap holiday, can you see it's auto-suggested a whole bunch of things here? So what you need to do is to examine these other options here and try and make sure you've got these phrases, if they're relevant anyway, embedded within your website. So let's take another example. Let's take gas plumbing. Gas pump plumbing. So let's say that was your particular business. You can optimize it for the words gas plumbing supplies, Perth, gas plumbing fittings, Melbourne, not so useful if you're in Perth, apprenticeships near me. So these are the sort of things you want to start making a list of to try and incorporate those phrases into your website. So in this particular case, let's say we go to gas plumbing supplies. So here we've got all the results. What you can do is check out each one of these and basically try and figure out why they come up first. Sometimes it's not just a question of what you see in their websites. It could be other factors. But as I say, look at other people's websites, get ideas from them, borrow ideas, just don't steal the copyright from them, the copy from them, because you can't just cut and paste from somebody else's website to yours. That's, an infringement of copyright. Just don't do that. But that is quite a nice little trick, the fact you can type in something, Google will suggest alternatives. And also if you go down to the bottom of the page, not always, but sometimes you'll have related searches. So what did I search for here? I can't remember now. It was gas plumbing supplies. Then down here it's got related searches. So what do we got here? LPG, gas fitting supplies. We've got all sorts of other bits and bobs. Obviously, a lot of people searching Wangara for some reason, Osborne Park. So those are the sort of phrases, those exact phrases. Try and embed those into your website. Don't overdo it. I mean, sometimes I see websites and there's like a contact us page, something like that. And then underneath that, there's a list of every single suburb within the whole of Perth. I mean, that is going to look like pure unadulterated spam as far as Google is concerned. So don't do that. You think you're being clever by doing that, but you just alienate Google, and you'd be penalized for it. So if you've got half a dozen suburbs that are really important to you, yes, put those in, but don't put every single suburb in. Sometimes less is more. So you've got auto suggest, and you've got related searches, which we just looked at. Word stemming, what's that? Well, something else you want to try and build into your website is alternatives. So, we were just talking about plumbing there. So you could use the word plumbing, plumber, plumbers, plural, which is important. You can also use different words. So, for instance, in my case, I have a website for SEO training. So instead of just mentioning the word SEO training over and over and over and over again, which would be really sort of spammy, I could use maybe SEO training, SEO seminars, SEO workshops. Then I could use the full version, search engine optimization training. So you see what I mean? You mix up different words with similar meanings. And also in this case here, let's say I'm talking about website design. Instead of having the words website design over and over again, I could have website spelt as one word. I could have web space site, web dash site. To humans, they don't really care one way or the other, but Google will actually reward you for the fact that you use different versions of the word and put possibly different spellings, and also different words that mean the same thing. Like in my case, training, tutorials, workshops, seminars, whatever it happens to be. So try and sort of mix all of this up. Don't just repeat the same phrase over and over again. If you're like me and you've typed in a phrase and you're trying to think of alternative phrases, your mind goes completely blank. What you can do is use a thesaurus. So within Microsoft Word, if you just double click on a word to highlight it and then press, I think it's Shift F7, that will bring up the thesaurus within Microsoft Word. And as you can see in this case, for the word computer, it's given me a whole load of alternatives. So what I could do is use these different alternatives like computer. I could also use notebook, laptop, mainframe, CPU, processor, etc. So these are other related phrases I could work into the website, and that would really help with the SEO. Something else that people don't really appreciate are what are called long tail phrases. So if you're a plumber in Perth, the key phrase, I guess, would be Perth plumber or plumbing Perth, something like that. And that would get the most searches. But let's say you're based in Joondalup, in the northern suburbs in Perth. There'll be very few people who would use the phrase I've suggested there, which is plumbing services in Perth's northern suburbs. That might only get half a dozen searches a month, if you're lucky, maybe. But if you completely nail a particular page for that phrase, so the title is called Plumbing Services in Perth's Northern Suburbs, and you have a very similar headings and your alt tags and all the other bits and bobs in the page, then you've got a very good chance of showing up at the top of Google for that phrase. And there might only be half a dozen searches a month, but if you're, just a one-person company, how much business do you need a day? You don't want hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of calls. You just want a couple. So you could have a long tail phrase using that particular phrase and maybe some other long tail phrases, and you'd show it quite nicely. So with SEO, don't always go for the obvious. Don't make your life difficult and hard. Go for the easy stuff as well, because you can just hoover up stuff that other bigger companies maybe wouldn't bother with. Right, Google Webmaster Guidelines. I'm not going to go through this in detail because you can check it out yourself. But if you remember, there were 3 sections there and a list of things that Google really dislikes. So I'm not going to labor the point here. Go and check it out yourself. Do a search for Google Webmaster Guidelines. Right, pictures and SEO. Pictures are incredibly useful for SEO. I mean, the most obvious thing you can do with a picture is give it an SEO-friendly file name. So something like fixing a leaking tap.jpg could be good for a plumbing website. There are other things you can do as well. So, for instance, there are what are called alt tags. Now, alt tags are basically little bits of code or little phrases you can put behind pictures. If you've never done this before, it's incredibly easy. It sounds complicated, but let's say you're in something like WordPress. What you can do within WordPress is when you insert a picture, you can go to the little sort of picture dialog box, and in there'll be something that says alt tag, simple as that, and you just put a tag in. So in my case, if I've got a picture of me running an SEO training course in Perth, I could put the alt tag SEO training course in Perth, run by Dave Murray or something. Don't make it too large. You don't want to write a book. You just want something short and snappy, but to the point from an SEO point of view. The alt, incidentally, is short for alternative, and it was originally designed for people with visual impairments. So not only are you helping yourself from a Google perspective, you're also helping people with visual impairments. The other thing about alt tags is they should be relevant. You don't want all alt tags to say exactly the same thing. So let's say on my page about, say, WordPress training, I had 20 pictures. Well, I don't want 20 alt tags in every separate picture saying SEO training. They should all be unique and different and relevant. Otherwise, again, it just looks like spam. Something else you should think about is if you've got loads of pictures, optimize the file size. Make the file size as small as possible. Why? Because smaller picture file sizes mean they load faster, and Google rewards you for a fast loading website. So try and get everything to load as fast as possible. Reduce the physical size of the pictures and then compress the pictures so they have a very, very small file size. And also don't have too many pictures as well, not on each page anyway. A concept that some people are familiar with SEO is that Google rewards original content. What people don't realize is that Google rewards original pictures as well. So it's not just the text content. If you take your own pictures, I've no idea how it does it, but Google somehow recognizes that those pictures are unique to your website, and you'll get a little tick from Google for that, and that's going to help you with your SEO. Now, the HTML title. This is the single most important SEO factor there is. When you do a search in Google and normally 10 results come up, for each result, what you normally get is a title, a URL, and a short description for all 10 websites that are displayed. And by having a really good title on your website that matches a particular page, and each page should have a different HTML title relevant to that particular page, if you take the time to have a really, really relevant keyword-rich title, Google will reward you for that. But there's always a but. You've got to make sure each title is relevant to that page. So, for instance, if I've got a page on my website about SEO training and I've got a title banging on about WordPress training, then there's a mismatch, and Google will know that. So, you've got to be very careful or everything matches up. You will also find that only about 64 characters are displayed in the search engine results of the title. So what you want is a nice, snappy, relevant title, relevant to your product or service. So a big mistake that a lot of people make is in that title, the first thing they do is they say, like, welcome to our website, which is a complete waste of time for a title, because that's telling Google that the words welcome to our website is what your page is about. Nonsense. In a similar way, you don't want to put your company name at the beginning of the title because you've only got 64 characters. This is incredibly valuable real estate. So why waste it by putting your company name in there? My company name is Cheltenham Group. Who cares? If people are looking for my SEO training, they don't type in Cheltenham Group unless they already know me. What they're typing in or searching for is my product or service, in that case, SEO training. So the title on my SEO training website would be SEO Training Perth, and then some other stuff, but it would start off with the really important stuff. And you've got to make sure that all your titles are, exactly crafted to describe what that page is about. You might think I'm joking here, but these are the sort of things I see week in, week out on people's websites. People come to me and say, hey, I've had a website for a few years, it's not doing too well. I go and check it out, and I go and look at their titles, and time again I get a title like home page. That's it. That's the title. Now, bearing in mind the title is the single most important SEO factor there is, bar none, they've just blown it. Welcome is another one, or maybe welcome to my new website, or variations on theme. Sometimes new page, or the biggest joke of all time is title goes here, because the web designer never quite got around to actually putting a title there. So literally the title is the text, title goes here. Or in some cases, no title at all, not even an empty title. So, I've said it, I don't know how many times, it's the most important thing there is. Make sure your titles are absolutely spot on and relevant. And as I say, the important words go right at the beginning of the title. You don't put them at the end. You don't put your company name first and then your product or service. It's the other way around. In fact, I wouldn't even bother putting your company name in the title. It's a waste of real estate. Put your company name in the embedded text, yes, but not in the title. Also, you can use exact keyword matches in your title. So, for instance, if you've done some research and you've found that maybe in my case, the phrase WordPress training seminars, a lot of people search for that, then my title should start off with WordPress training seminars, and then maybe a dash and something else. But right at the beginning, I put the important things. That's how you make titles work. Right, along with the title, you've got this thing called the HTML description. Now, the description doesn't actually affect your SEO whatsoever, but the way I like to think about it is the title helps to get you on the first page, and a really good description helps to get you clicked on. So a really good description is more about the click-through rate than anything else. So remember, the title, very important for SEO. Descriptions don't actually affect your SEO at all, technically. But if people are searching through the search engines and they're looking at the first page results with 10 results on there, they're looking for a description that basically says, we do this, we do that. So they're looking for your product, your service location, and maybe a phone number or something like that. Right, headings, very important. Do you remember I've said it so many times I've lost count? One more time. The title is the most important thing there is. In Joint Place, there's a whole bunch of things. One of those things are what are called headings. Now, these headings work in exactly the same way as they do, say, Microsoft Word. So Microsoft Word, you can select the first line of text and go to the styles at the top of the ribbon there, and you can click to make it a heading 1 or a heading 2 or a heading 3. So you've got H1s, H2s, H3s. In websites, you've got exactly the same thing. You can have heading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The heading 1 is very, very important from an SEO point of view. Heading 2 to a lesser extent. Headings 3 to 6 have virtually no effect whatsoever. So again, a mistake I see over and over again on, say, people's homepage is the phrase, hello, welcome to our website. And that's marked as a heading 1. So what you're saying to Google is that the words, hello, welcome to my website. Those are the important phrases. You've blown it. It's a complete waste of space. So in the same way that you want to really, really think about your titles, you want to really think about your headings, especially the H1. As to how you mark them in H1, that varies from one thing to another. But again, if you're using something like WordPress, within the editor within WordPress, most text is marked as what's called paragraph. So if you go into your WordPress editor and click on a line, instead of having it as paragraph, go and mark it as H1 or H2, header 1 or a header 2. Very, very important this, using header 1s. Don't use exactly the same text as you've got in your title, but use a similar phrase, but not exact. Google likes structure. It likes what's called a hierarchical structure, and that can be sort of seen in many different ways, but it's also reflected in the way it uses headings. So if you've got an H1, as far as Google's concerned, that's like the top of the pyramid. So you can have an H1, possibly a couple of H2s, a couple of H3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, etc. But there's a couple of basic rules. Only one H1 per page. It doesn't make any sense to have more than one because you've got this pyramid, this hierarchical structure. So only one heading 1 or H1 per page, as many H2s and H3s as you want, but also no gaps in the hierarchy. So, for instance, you don't want an H1 and then a couple of H3s with no H2s. Simple stuff, but as I say, SEO is all about doing all this stuff and getting it right. A lot of people, when they come on my full 2-day SEO course, they sort of expect programming or complicated stuff and what have you. And it's not. It's, dare I say, it's almost boring in a way, because it's just fastidious attention to detail. That's really what SEO is about doing all these little bits and pieces and doing them all right. There is no programming, there's no technical knowledge required for good SEO, regardless of what anyone might tell you. There are some technical things within SEO, but if you use WordPress, and if you're not using WordPress, think about transferring your website over to WordPress. It'll be worth the effort, I promise you, because in those 200 factors I was telling you about that Google takes into account, there are some technical things like, for instance, gzip or caching or lazy loading. And you might think, whoa, what are those? Who cares? You don't really need to understand exactly what some of these things are, like gzip, for instance. I mean, I have a technical background, so I actually understand this stuff, but I don't need it. Gzip is what's called server-side caching, basically, or server-side compression. If you're using WordPress, you don't need to know how it works or exactly what it's doing. All you have to do is to install the relevant plugin, which are free with WordPress. So you install a gzip plugin in that case. You activate it. Sometimes there's some configuration required, and that's it. You just forget about it. And why do you use gzip? Because if you head over to those Google Webmaster Guidelines I get banging on about, somewhere buried away in there, it will say, oh, by the way, we recommend you use gzip. So as I say, that's an example where that is, okay, a slightly technical subject, but because WordPress is just so wonderful, you just simply install, in that case, a gzip plugin, activate it, it gets on with it, forget about it. In the same way, again, if you go back to Google Webmaster Guidelines, it will recommend what's called an XML sitemap and an HTML sitemap. No idea what those are? You don't need to worry. Again, in WordPress, you just install some plugins, click, 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 sorted. So as I say, even the more technical stuff, if you're using the right program like WordPress, you just sort of install the relevant plugin, off it goes, and it does all the complicated stuff without you having to worry about it. The mistake just about everyone makes, including a lot of web designers, is they use headings for styling, not for SEO. So what do I mean by that? Well, when you go into something like WordPress and you mark a particular piece of text as maybe a header 1 or a header 2, what it does, it makes that text maybe use a different font or maybe larger. And that's what I mean by people using it for styling, not for SEO, because let's say they want the words, hey, welcome to my new website, to be displayed in large letters at the top. They will go and mark that as an H1. Totally blown it from an SEO point of view, but from a styling point of view, it's done the job, but that's not really the point. So always, when you're thinking about headers, always think SEO, not styling. If you want to use fonts or if you want to use some text that uses a different font or a larger font or whatever, then find some other way of doing that. In WordPress, there's lots of plugins, font formatting plugins you can use. There's other ways of doing it rather than using headings. So as I say, with headings, the trick is try and cram those within reason, obviously, with your keyword phrases. So in my case, if you go and look at my home page, I pretty much guarantee the heading 1 will say something like, I don't know, SEO training courses in Perth or something like that. So it's concise and to the point. So there you are, use relevant keywords in your headings, not welcome or what have you. Right, another basic concept is name everything using keywords. So literally everything you can think of can have the keywords within it. So for instance, let's say you're a plumbing company in Perth. I'm pretty sure this is gone by now, but the ideal website would be something like Plumbing Perth, because you've got your keywords within the domain name itself. You'll notice if you check out my website, which is www.4seotraining.com.au, it has the words SEO training as part of the URL. The only reason it's got the 4 in front of it is because I came to Australia 13, 14 years ago, and by the time I arrived, somebody else had actually bagged the domain name SEO Training, so I went for the next best thing. I put a 4 in front of it, so I've got 4, kind of play on words, for seotraining.com.au. Obviously, if you've got a website that's been up and running for ages and it's called something else, then stick with it, because you don't have to do absolutely everything, just everything that's practical. As I say, my company name is Cheltenham Group, but my websites will always have a domain name that's relevant to that particular product or service that the website's about. The other thing, as I kind of mentioned earlier on, is using keywords within file names. So they could be the names of pictures or videos or documents or whatever happens to be. Incidentally, the best way to use file names or names within file names is to have a couple of words separated by hyphens, so no spaces, no underscores. So if I wanted to name a picture, something like SEO Training, it would be SEO-training.jpg. In a similar way to file names, if you can create folders on your website, name the folders. So let's take an obvious example. Let's say you've got a pet shop. What you could do is create, say, 3 folders, one for cats, one for dogs, one for hamsters, or whatever it happens to be. And when you actually create your files, you could put all the files relating to cats in a folder called cats, and so on and so forth. And again, this will help with your SEO. So as I say, use keywords in file names, use keywords in document file names, videos, anything you can think of. Right, website loading speed, very, very important these days. Now, the first thing you need to do is check out the loading speed. And what you can do is, if you go to Google and just search using the phrase something like Google Page Speed Insights, stupid name, but something like that. So as you can see here, you've got Page Speed Insights. Just search Google for something like that, and that'll take you to the right page. And then you just type in your URL like this. And oh, that's quite funny. In this case, I've forgotten I've done this. I've done it for Microsoft, and you get a mobile and a desktop version, and the mobile version comes up as poor, and that's from Microsoft. Probably because they've just got too many bits and pieces on that home page. So that kind of illustrates that, you know, certainly with your home page, keep it reasonably simple so it loads fast. Don't get too obsessed with this, because Google doesn't reward you for a fast loading website. It penalizes you for a slow loading website. So, you know, if you're above sort of 60, 70%, that's good enough. You know, don't get obsessed with trying to get to 90, 95, 100%. You know, it's a wasted effort. You won't get rewarded. You'll just get penalized if it's very, very slow. But it is an important SEO factor. Pictures, as I mentioned earlier. For every single picture, optimize each one so the physical file size, the pixel size, is as small as possible. And then if you're using JPEG files, they can be compressed. So you'll find you can start off the file that could be, I don't know, 10 megabytes. And by the time you finish messing about with it, it can be down to, I don't know, 20K or something. You know, it's really, really small. And the smaller the file size, the faster it loads. Incidentally, if you don't have something like Photoshop, download a program called GIMP, G-I-M-P. It's totally free, and for most people, it will give you all the power of Photoshop, everything you need. So within GIMP, you can adjust the sizes of your pictures, you can optimize them, you can crunch them up so you make them smaller. It's totally free and well worth a look. And if you've never used a graphics program like Photoshop or GIMP, download GIMP. Go to YouTube. There's, I don't know, hundreds of tutorials on how to use GIMP. There's a short learning curve, but you'll be glad you did that, because you'll end up with a much faster loading website. Right, something else that's going to increase the speed of your website is caching. It doesn't really matter how caching works. It's quite technical. But if you're using WordPress again, all you've got to do is to install one of the various caches that are available. There's lots of different types. Just find one that has good reviews, install it, optimize it. There you are, sorted. And the end result is your website is going to load faster. gzip, which I mentioned earlier on, again, is purely a question within WordPress anyway of installing a plugin and it goes faster. Incidentally, you might think, well, I'm banging on about WordPress a lot. What about Wix or Squarespace or all the other options out there? Well, if you actually examine technically the capabilities of these programs, WordPress will win every single time. It's also free, which is kind of nice. Most of the plugins are free as well. If you look at the market globally for these content management systems, as they're called, I think the last time I checked, WordPress had around about 60-odd% of the market, and I think Wix had about 1.5%. So the numbers kind of talk for themselves, really. Wix basically advertise themselves as free. Now, bear in mind, I haven't looked at Wix for a long time, but my question is, if it's free, how do they afford all this expensive advertising? So I'm told that in a lot of cases with things like Wix, the basic thing is free, then you have to pay for this, you have to pay for that, blah, 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 and all adds up. WordPress is totally free. Most of the plugins are totally free. Seriously think about transferring to WordPress if you're using something like Wix or Squarespace or what it happens to be, and you'll be really glad you did. On my seminars, I always recommend this, and an awful lot of people who have used these other programs took my advice. They've gone over to WordPress, and then you can do all this clever stuff, plus a whole load of other things. There's actual SEO plugins for WordPress as well. And okay, there's a bit of pain transferring from one to the other. You can't just put it in a magic box. It's got to be done manually. But the end result is you're going to end up with a much better website in terms of SEO. Right, broken links and 404 errors. Again, check out the Google Webmaster Guidelines, and it will mention the fact it doesn't like broken links, so check your broken links. Incidentally, there is a plugin you can, not plugin, there's a little program you can download. It's called, what's it called? XENU. So it's like menu spelled with an X. So go and find this on Google. It's called XENU. And it's a little program you can download. It runs from your desktop. You just type in the URL of your website and it'll find any broken links. Obviously, it won't fix them, but it'll tell you if you've got any broken links. Or, of course, if you're using WordPress, as always, you can install a broken link checker and say, well, check my website maybe once a week. Why do I love WordPress? Because whatever you want to do, there's a solution for it, and it's generally free. So, HTML sitemap. Why is that important? Because Google tells you to have one. So an HTML sitemap is just an ordinary page on your website that displays links to all the other pages. That's basically all it is. And you see these commonly under the About drop-down menu or something like that. And it helps Google because if Google finds your HTML sitemap page, it goes to that page and says, oh, right, I've got a link here to all the other important pages. And it just means it can index your entire site much quicker, much more effectively. You could do it manually, but again, if you're using WordPress, if you use something like a plugin or maybe a template, doesn't matter how you actually implement it, but basically if you're automating the page, what this means is you've got a dynamic page, and what that means is that if you add new pages, those pages are automatically added to the list. You know, the last thing you want to do is have to do it manually, because quite often you'll forget when you create new pages to add those to the existing list. So make sure it's all done automatically. There's something else called an XML sitemap. You don't actually see this. This is really for Google's benefit. But again, Google recommends you have one of these. And the idea of an XML sitemap file, it's a little file that's attached to your website so that when Google goes to your website, the first thing it does, it looks to see, have you got an XML sitemap file? And if you've got one, it speaks Google's language. They have a little chat. So the file will say, oh, since your last visit, this file is new, that file is new, this one's been edited, this one's maybe been deleted. So Google has a little chat to the XML sitemap file contents, takes that information back to Google, and makes the whole indexing far more efficient. If you haven't got one, Google will still cope, but basically it's trying to sort of, root through your website more or less in the dark and doesn't really know what's going on. It just makes it an awful lot easier. And again, in WordPress, the easiest thing is to install an XML sitemap plugin. You install it, forget about it. Right, encryption, this is another thing that's important. This didn't used to affect SEO, but increasingly Google now expects your websites to be secure. If you've added a security system to your website, it now starts with HTTPS. The S just means secure. And it's one of those things that you don't have to worry about how it works or what it's doing. If you don't already have HTTPS, just simply contact your hosting provider, your service company. Tell them you want to transfer over to HTTPS. There will be a charge for this, but they'll just do it for you. So it's something you don't need to do it yourself. You just ring up your hosting company, say, right, transfer to HTTPS, at which point you're going to do better in the SEO efforts. Right, Google My Business. This is absolutely brilliant. Just search, if you haven't done this already, just search for the phrase Google My Business. That'll take you to the relevant page. And basically just sign up, fill in all your information. And what it means is that you've got the results here, and over here, that's displayed by the Google My Business. It's totally free. So I often think it's a bit of a shame. Sometimes you can see people advertising over here and they've paid a fortune for it. But if you've got Google My Business items showing here, then you've got this like huge free advert. And most people will think, oh, let's click on that. There's a link to the website there. Off you go. So this is, again, it's a no-brainer, really. It's obviously related to local searches, but, if you've got, for instance, a company in Joondalup, if someone types in your particular product or service followed by Joondalup, what you want ideally is your company to show up here on the side here like that, and that can get you an astonishing amount of business, and it's totally free. So as I say, just Google for the phrase Google My Business, follow the prompts, go from there, just sign up. Right, SEO checklist and audit. These are the sort of things you need to start thinking about. I've talked about the title and how important that is. I've talked about headings and how important they are. Do you remember alt tags? Those are the tags that go behind the images. That's important. Anchor text, I haven't mentioned that. I mean, this is just a quick introduction to SEO. But if you're interested in anchor text, that's just the text that makes up a text link. So you've probably all seen web pages where it says something like, click here to blah, blah, blah. And the words click here, that's where you click on to go somewhere or to download something. Now, the text within the anchor link is important from an SEO point of view. So if the clickable bit of the link is the word click here, what you're telling Google is that the words click here are important, which is nonsense. So let's say in my case, let's say I wanted to say something like click here to download a free tips and tricks manual. What I would do is have something like download my free SEO tips and tricks manual, something like that, and have the words SEO tips and tricks. Those words would make up the link. So those words will become what's called the anchor text. So basically, the anchor text is packed with my particular keywords, my SEO important keywords. So that's all anchor text is. As I said, there's lots and lots of these little things you can do, all of which sort of help Google to understand what the page is about. As I say, you've got other things, so outgoing links, they can be important. Using bold and bulleted text, that can be important. The number of words per page. Google really rewards you for having more text on your page. So the more text, the better, as far as Google's concerned. Things to worry about are things like keyword density. So if you have the same phrase repeated over and over again. So let's say I had, for sake of argument, on a page, the word SEO training repeated over and over again. And maybe as a percentage of the total words on that page, it was, I don't know, a 7% sort of repeat rate. That would be far too high. That would seem very, very spammy. So whenever you produce text, whenever you produce copy on your website, by all means put your keywords in there, but don't overdo it. Don't just pack them in there, because you'll get penalized, rather than helping your website. So as I said, we've got loads and loads of other things here to think about, things like loading speed, broken links, internal linking. You got your sitemaps, website encryption. There's also things like schema markup. I haven't really got time to go into what schema markup is, but again, you guessed it. If you've got WordPress, you can install a schema plugin, and what schema does is it allows you to put hidden information within the website that Google can read and understand and approves of, because Google was involved with setting up schema. So, for instance, you may have noticed that if you search for something like, cheesecakes within Google, as well as just having 10 results with the usual title and URL and description, you also have little pictures of the cheesecakes. Check it out. How do those pictures get there? By using something called schema. As I say, in WordPress, click, 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 sorted. So even something complicated like that can be done really easily in WordPress. And the other thing, of course, is make very, very sure your website is properly set up for mobile. If you want to, you can go to my website, which is forseotraining.com.au, and I'll just bring this up. So as you can see, this is my website here, and all I did was, if you click on where it says free SEO audit, in here you can type in your URL, your keyword phrase. So I won't actually do it, but if I was doing this, I'd type in my URL here, which would be for seotraining.com.au. I'd type in my keyword phrase, which would be something like SEO training, just pop my email in there, and then I click on scan now, and that would give me a really detailed report from an SEO point of view about the website. Now, originally I created this tutorial for a presentation at the Wanneroo Business Association. Unfortunately, we had some technical problems, so I can't actually show you the live version of the recording because there were a few issues there. So this is like a sort of studio recreation, if you like, of that presentation. Now, on the day of the presentation, there were a number of different companies in the audience who volunteered that we could go and look at their websites and basically have a quick look behind the scenes. And one way of doing this is if you're using something like Chrome or Firefox, then within Chrome or Firefox, it's it differs slightly how you do it. But what you can do is you can add extensions, and what you can do is you can add, in this case, an extension called SEO Quake. It's totally free, so just go and check it out. As I say, it only works in something like Chrome or Firefox. So once you've done that, once you've installed this free extension, what happens is you get this little icon displayed in the title at the top here, in the menu here. So let's go and look at the first one here. So the website is buildabusinesswebsite.com.au. So I'll display that. Then I go and click on the SEO Quake icon up here. And what that allows me to do is to look behind the scenes. So I can see, for instance, what the title is. So in this case, it's Build a Business Website, Wanneroo Design and Online Marketing Hosting. So that's actually pretty good. I mean, it describes succinctly and clearly what the website's about. And again, you've got a nice description here. As we come down here, unfortunately, what we don't have is an H1. So there's no header 1 and there's no header 2s. So do you remember I said H1 is very, very important from an SEO point of view? Missing out on that, no H2s either. And to make matters worse, they've got H3s, but nothing before that. So you've got a gap in the hierarchy. So Google is looking for an H1, H2, and then H3s as well. What it doesn't like is H3s on their own. If we look at the actual first H3, it says portfolio. So that's saying to Google, to some extent, the word portfolio is important, or what people say. So this is an example where headers have been applied for formatting reasons. So the word portfolio and what people say in articles and about and blah, blah, blah. Basically, they've been formatted with the H3s to make them stand out on the page. As I say, what you should do is use H1s and H2s particularly for SEO purposes, not for formatting. If we come down the page here, we've got two images that don't have alt tags behind them. As I say, that's very simple in something like WordPress. You just click on your image and you could bring up the editing dialog box, and there'll be a little box called alt or alternative where you could add the alt text, which is important from an SEO point of view. As we come down here, it's also saying there's not nearly enough text, which I can tell just by looking at it. Remember, if you're serious about your SEO, you want lots of text on all your pages, and relevant text and high quality text as well, not just text for the sake of it. If you come down here, what else we got? No schema. Do you remember I briefly mentioned schema? Again, if you're using WordPress, you can use a schema plugin and specifically create some schema markup, and Google will like that because Google is part of the schema, organization that set up schema. If we come down here, what else we got? AMP. You don't have AMP. AMP is short for Accelerated Mobile Pages. And what it does is it makes mobiles loading a lot faster by stripping out all the interesting stuff. So let's say you had a background video playing on your home page. That would play quite happily on your laptop and your desktop where people are connected to broadband. But it's kind of basically not polite to expect your visitors to, incur data charges watching your videos automatically playing in the background. So AMP, amongst other things, will strip out all that. So if you do apply AMP, your mobile versions look a little bit bland, but they load very, very fast. And for better or worse, it's something that Google likes. Google also likes this thing called Meta Viewpoint. All that means really is it works okay on a mobile. It's responsive. As we come down here, all these other bits and pieces are in place. Do you remember I mentioned the XML sitemap, 2 times the sitemap? That's actually in place, which is good. The language has been specified. The doc type and the encoding has been specified. They've hooked it up to Google Analytics, which is good, so you can see what's going on. And lastly, you've got what's called a fave icon, short for a favorite icon. That has nothing to do with SEO. It's a kind of little branding thing, really. So this up here, that's the fave icon. So you see here and here, or in this case here. It's just a little icon that's displayed at the top. So it's kind of a branding thing. So, that's sort of, pretty good. Certainly the headers need sorting out. The missing alt tags should be added. But by and large, that one's not bad. Let's look at the next one. So this one here is a website. So, visually it looks nice. You've got links to the social media and stuff, which is good. If we go and click on the SEO Quake icon here and go to where it says diagnose to look at the information in the background. So what have we got? We've got a title, which makes a very, very common mistake. I mean, the website really is about a civil celebrant, for weddings. But the thing that comes first is the name. So people are very unlikely to search for this person by name. What they're really searching for is the service or the product. So in this case, that really should have come first, followed maybe by location, maybe a suburb or Perth or what have you. So always remember with your title, it's product, service, location. Get those in first. So the word home there is just kind of wasting precious real estate, because remember, you can only have about 64 characters being displayed. So I would have moved that to here, added the word Perth, and added a few other bits and bobs. So that would make a big difference. The description here is fine. That doesn't affect your SEO, but it does affect your click-through rate. You've got a whole bunch of what are called meta keywords. Google hasn't actually used those for probably 10 years. So it won't do you any harm by having those. It just won't do you any good either. It's kind of an old idea. If we look at the headings here, if we look at the headings here, there's no headings at all, no H1s all the way through H6s. So that's a big problem. So there should be some H1s and H2s added to this page, which will help a lot. So it's kind of strange that there's no headings, but all the images have alt tags. So it's kind of unusual. I'd expect if this was right, then this would be right as well. So That will make a big difference just by having relevant keywords marked within an H1. If we come down here, as always, not enough text. Well, you can tell that just by looking at it, so more text required. Again, no schema, no AMP. Whoa, this is not so good. This has failed the meta viewpoint test here, which means it's not going to look that great on a mobile, apparently. So that would need to be changed. There's some technical stuff here. It doesn't have a robots text file. The language hasn't been defined. There's no XML sitemap. So again, these are little things, but all the little things, as I keep saying, that they add up. So you can see, changes need to be made there. Incidentally, with this SEO Quake, it's not just this. If I go to where it says page info, here I can get information on what sort of shows up most. And the thing that shows up, or the word that shows up most on the home page, is the person's name, and in third place is her second name. Whereas what it should be is celebrant. That should be the thing that's most visible. So that's actually down here with 1.2% and her name at 2.39%. So it needs a real sort of refocusing on the product service, not the name of the individual or the company name. So let's look at the next one. This one is trendycakes.com.au, which looks very yummy. Let's go and have a look behind the scenes. Or in fact, before we do that, let's scroll down first. So immediately we can see that there's a couple of interesting things. There's virtually no text, and the copyright is kind of interesting. So this is Back to the Future. This is 2023. So it's this is a common mistake, people getting the date wrong. Sometimes I have an old date, but having one in the future is equally common, and it just doesn't look so good. Also, you can see here this is a Wix website, which I'm not a big fan of, as I may have made clear earlier. If it was me, I would transfer this to WordPress, and it would be a heck of a lot easier to get this this website promoted. Anyway, let's have a quick look behind the scenes. So we'll go here again, and we'll go to diagnose. So what have we got? Cakes and cupcakes, spot on. Then it mentions Perth, Western Australia, and then Trendy Cakes. So couldn't resist putting the name in there, Trendy Cakes. That's a kind of waste of real estate in the title, as I've mentioned before. Really home in on your product, your service location. But it's not bad. It's Cakes and Cupcakes, Perth, then WA. So, replace Trendy Cakes maybe with something else, something more relevant. Description is fine. If we go down here again, no headings whatsoever, so that's easily fixed. Sometimes when I show this to people, I get a little bit depressed. I think, oh, this is wrong, that's wrong. Well, if everything was perfect and you still weren't showing up, you're stuffed, basically. If, on the other hand, there's a lot of things that are easily fixed, like in all these examples I'm showing you, they're common mistakes, easily fixed. Just fixing these could have an enormous sort of influence on your SEO position. If you do all the 200 factors that I've been banging on about, then you're going to show up much better. So, this is going to be easily fixed. In the same way, the images, you've got 12 images without alt tags. Well, simply fixed. As usual, not enough text, always the same thing. If we come down here, it found some schema. That surprises me. So that will help to some extent, the fact you've got schema objects buried in the background somewhere. If we come down here, no AMP. The view meta point, that just means it's going to work well on a mobile. That's good. And then down here, ticks for all the technical stuff. The only thing you haven't got is Google Analytics. That won't affect the SEO, but Google Analytics is a free thing that just lets you examine who's looking at your website. So not bad. A lot of easily fixed mistakes. Then finally, we've got this one here, which is it's thermoglazedwa.com.au. And if we scroll down, the obvious thing that's screaming out at me is not enough text. So we need more text, always need more text there. Let's go and have a look behind the scenes. Go here, go to diagnose. Okay, so there's the company name first, then Windows WA. We make it, we install it, we guarantee it. I mean, that works well as a marketing slogan, but it doesn't work well as a title. In the title, you want to bang in straight with your product, service, location. So I'm not quite sure, but I think this is to do with things like double glazing and what have you, and different types of doors. So essentially, that title should be changed so that it kind of tries to get a snapshot of what the website is about in as few words as possible. There's no description there, which is going to ignore Google, which is going to annoy Google. The description doesn't affect your SEO, but the fact you haven't got any description at all will affect your SEO because Google expects to see a description. So that's going to harm your SEO. If we look down here, let's have a look. We don't have an H1. Same old story. I mean, every other website I look at, you know, the headings are all over the place. It's very normal. The first H2 that Google will look at just says our services, tells Google nothing. The next one does at least mention double glazing, but it says the benefits of. So the first three words are wasted. You know, it goes straight in off the bat, you know, double glazing Perth, boom. And then, you know, put your marketing stuff in. So again, just a refocusing here on the headings can make a huge difference. Same old, same old. None of the images are using alt tags. Not enough text. You know, I see this over and over again. It doesn't use schema. You don't have to use schema, but it helps. If we come down here, what else we got? No AMP. View meta point is okay. That means it's going to look okay on a mobile. And if we come down here, what's missing? The XML sitemap. So I looked at 4 different websites here, and they all more or less had the same sort of problems. I mean, I see this day in, day out with the, you know, people that come to me for consultancy or training or whatever. The good news is they're very easily fixed with no technical expertise or anything. Certainly if you're using WordPress, if you know what you're doing in WordPress, you can go click, 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 add your headings, you know, put your alt images in, alt tags on the images rather, put your sitemaps in, both types of sitemaps, and do all the other bits and bobs, plus a whole load of other things, obviously. And before you know it, you're showing up well in the search engine results. But you know, these were just picked at random from the audience when I taught this live a couple of days ago. And, you know, this is exactly the sort of thing I see over and over again. You know, the websites themselves look nice, but, you know, it's the same old, not enough text on them. And in terms of what Google expects, you know, the stuff, you know, the basics is just not there. So go beyond the basics, and at that point, with a little bit of luck, you kind of slaughter the opposition within the search engine results. But do bear in mind, you know, you can never guarantee anything with SEO. So if anyone comes to you and says, hey, I'll guarantee to get you on the first page, walk away. Nobody can guarantee that. If people ask me to guarantee first page, I say, no, I can do my best. But that's all I can do. I can do my best. But nobody can guarantee to get you onto the first page. So, you know, be very careful of SEO companies that make these sort of nonsense guarantees. Sometimes they might guarantee it, and what they're actually guaranteeing is they're going to set up pay-per-click advertising for you. That's nothing to do with SEO. That's just advertising. You know, it's like an auction. So don't confuse pay-per-click with SEO, two entirely separate things. Also, sometimes SEO companies say, no, we'll guarantee you get on the first position, but what they're talking about is a stupid long-tail phrase that hardly anyone's going to use. So, for instance, rather than say SEO training, which I come up first in, they might guarantee a competitor to come up first for something like SEO training in Dutch, WA, Australia, something like an exact phrase like that. And what they do is they just saturate the website in that particular phrase. Okay, it will come up first probably, but no one's ever going to see it because very few people are going to type in that particular phrase. Whereas, as you saw, If I show you one more time, if I bring up, say, Google here, I type in SEO, type in training, no Perth, no Joondalup, no nothing. I come up after the adverts, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 adverts there. So as you can see, it's pretty competitive. These poor people are spending a fortune on advertising, and I come up first and second for free. And I have this huge piece of real estate over here also for free, so I win. That's what SEO is about. That's what search engine optimization is all about. It's about doing everything right and showing up well. And I've been going for 22 years, and I do virtually no traditional marketing. It's all done through SEO, and the company, basically, you're looking at it, it's just me. As I said, I've been doing it for 20 odd years now, and you might want to check out the website. So if you go to 4seotraining.com.au, that basically sort of shows you what I do. So as you can see, you can do a free audit on here. So it's 4seotraining.com.au. I also run training courses and consultancy, and I also do web design. But this is done in WordPress, and as you can see, it looks nice, and it's kind of interesting. Looks nice and beautiful, and there's sort of movement going on there. Things move around slightly. And if you're interested in training, just go there. You can check out the training. Go here, and you can check out the consultancy. So that concludes this quick look at SEO. It's by no means comprehensive. It's really just introducing you to some of the ideas, and also allowing you to check what your own website is like. If you've been using an SEO company, go and run those checks I showed you. And, if you're missing the H1s and H2s and your alt tags are missing, then change your SEO company. There's far more bad SEO companies than good SEO companies. Sometimes it's almost embarrassing being in this industry because there are so many bad players in it. But I would say, for what it's worth, think about doing your own SEO. It's your business. You know what words are important. And as I said, there is no technical or programming involved. There are no technical skills. There's no programming involved. There's absolutely no reason why people can't do their own SEO. The only other thing I didn't mention, by the way, is blogs. You should ideally set up a blog within your website, and ideally maybe post something maybe once a month, once a week if you could do it, but certainly once a month or every 2 months, because Google also rewards regular sort of updated content. So having a blog is a good way of doing that.